Welcome to Blackpool, situated in the northwest of the UK. This world-famous holiday resort was chosen to host the latest round of Aero GP.
Blackpool is just a great location. I mean, Blackpool has, of course, it's all the entertainment. It's a great venue city. It's a great destination city, and they do host major events. So it was a very easy choice to pick here. Of course, they'd have the beach and a wonderful pitch for us to play in.
But bad weather in the days leading up to the event meant there were changes to the programme.
One of the backbone elements of the Aero GP is the air race, which is a very exciting discipline. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the air race in this particular occasion for this Grand Prix due to weather. On Thursday and Friday, we didn't have enough weather to give the pilots enough familiarization with the circuit and the practice that they like to have, because every venue is a little bit different.
With safety being the primary concern for the organisers, a reserve Aero GP discipline was selected to replace the air race.
The contest is twofold this weekend. The first is a time trial of 7 pilots flying what we call arresty manoeuvres, but actually attempting to complete their sequence within a given amount of time. The fastest man incurring no penalties being the leading man.
In the first known sequence, we're looking for the aerobatic figures to be flown in the correct order and without omissions and without the wrong figure being flown instead. If I see any of those, then that goes into the computer and it gets downgraded with a time penalty.
There is a 4-minute freestyle at which the guys can then demonstrate some of the additional skills that they have outside of the set figures that are prepared for them, and also demonstrate the characteristics of their own aeroplanes.
In the freestyle, we're judging on 3 criteria: technical merit, artistic impression and positioning and timing. It must be completed within 3.5 to 4.5 minutes, and there are penalties for exceeding that either side.
So the stage was set for some exciting action over the golden sands of Blackpool. Each competition day starts with a safety briefing at the competitors' hotel.
Weather this morning, it's all written up on the board. I'm sure you have time to digest it. Any questions in relation to the weather that's expected today? Alan did have a look at the picture, and there are some quite substantial showers building up over Ireland and drifting across.
The man in charge of the flying is Mike Wood.
I mean, the biggest problem they've got is the onshore wind, which is making it very, very difficult for positioning, because these aircraft, although they go relatively quickly, they are very vulnerable to wind, and it's been difficult. It's been 25 knots at altitude, so pilots are really having to plan their sequence ahead and pitch their manoeuvres such that they maintain the defined box.
First to fly earlier in the day was the reigning British aerobatic champion Mark Jeffries. He set a blistering time for the sequence of 2 minutes 20 seconds. This gave the remaining 6 pilots a tough target to beat, and the competition was on. Next to fly was Jerry Cooper, a strong contender in the competition. Race commentator, as it was for the event, is Brendan O'Brien.
First into the box then is Jerry, getting himself centered up on the AB axis. Got to get a lot of orientation going there. It's a 1 kilometer square box. Okay, up for the first maneuver, high speed roll, 500 degrees a second there. Everybody's flying the same sequence. The idea is to fly it as fast as possible for Aero GP. Accuracy, okay, you can set it by a little bit. There he is. Half roll, 2 inverted, and now a big push. Oh, really hard work, and that's a lot of effort. He's being pushed out against the straps there. The beads of perspiration bursting on his fevered brow, but who knows? Up to the inverted again, and now it's a rolling circle inside 2 turns, back in level flight, trying to maintain his orientation all the time. Flying the CAP 232 300 horsepower engine. It's the premier aerobatic aircraft in the world. The aficionados say that it rolls faster than any other aircraft known to man. Into the vertical, then stall turn to the left, always to the left because of the prop wash, the torque and the slipstream from that right-hand tractor engine. 300 horsepower, 6-cylinder air-cooled engine. Back into level flight, looking again for his orientation up into the vertical, and it's a quick, instantaneous quarter vertical roll. So, Jerry's first run in the box and a chance to check the conditions.
Windy. It went okay, but the problem being first is you don't get a chance to see what's happening with the wind, so I ended up a little bit too close in one of the figures. So.
And that infringement gave Jerry a time penalty of 30 seconds, meaning a total time of 2 minutes 54 seconds, which left him well off the pace.
Steve Carver then next into the box, first run, first sequence, flying the Extra 260 from Germany, this aircraft, as opposed to France with the CAP 232. Centers himself now on the main axis, pulling up into the vertical, looking back down now. There he is, rolling in the vertical. Orientation, very, very difficult. Look at this wind here. There's a lot of drift going on as he rolls himself inverted, looking for the ground. There it is. That's the center of the box on the V-axis, pulling up, looking again, a big push now coming out against the straps, yep, into level flight, onto the down 45, full aileron roll on the way down, and back onto the A-axis.
Steve Carver flew a personal best of 2 minutes 40 seconds, putting him into second place.
Something different now, Clive Butler flying the venerable Pitt Special, this one an S1T 4-cylinder, 200 horsepower, variable pitch. Not an easy aircraft to fly. They're very short coupled, high wing loading. This aircraft was designed by Par Pitts on the back of a cigarette packet way before World War II. Okay, on the way down now, he's looking for the ground once again. The view is cut off to a degree by that top wing of the biplanes. They're not quite as agile as the monoplanes, of course, and that is a big disadvantage in this competition.
And that disadvantage showed with a time of 3 minutes 13 seconds.
Now, Alan Cassidy, they know him as Mr. Aerobatics, flying another Pitt Special. It may not look like the Pitt Special you've just seen, but it is. It's a Pitts 12 with a big 360 horsepower Russian radial engine. Again, you can see the problems, that big wing on the top, making it difficult to see, and also the controls are really rather heavy. Take a look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4 points of hesitation roll. And into a 1.5 turn flick roll to inverted.
Alan scored a very respectable 2 minutes 48 seconds.
Next into the competition box then, Gary Ferrum. Now he's flying the lowest powered of the extras, an Extra 230, but no matter. 2 times national advanced aerobatic champion. Now let's look what he's doing onto the down 45, rolling that aileron roll 45 degrees. Got to keep himself orientated all the time on that main A-axis. Here he is going into a rolling circle now. Very tricky rolling and turning at the same time. This looks like it's going to be a great run.
And it was a great run with a time of 2 minutes 21 seconds, putting him into second place.
Well, the competition really hotting up now with Tom Cassels, an ex-Army tank captain. Well, his aircraft anything but a tank. Another example of that world-beating CAP 232. Well, let's see what he's going to do in the center of the box. 1 and 2 points of hesitation roll, 1, 2 to the right. Pushing now about -3G there, taking up against the straps once again, and into level flight and rolling, aileron rolling to inverted.
Tom scored a time of 2 minutes 31 seconds, meaning first to fly Mark Jeffries wins maximum points from this first sequence. The next part of the competition was the spectacular freestyle, a chance to show what the aircraft and the pilot is capable of.
First into the freestyle then, Gerald Cooper. Now here is an opportunity for the pilot really to shine. An aerial ballet, quality, variety, difficulty maneuver. Here he is in a Lomshamak, rotating to the right initially and then to the left. Okay. Upside down. Now look at those full span ailerons there. That's what gives this aircraft such a tremendous rate of roll, over 500 degrees a second. Look at that rate of rotation onto the down 45. Orientation laterally, always of course using peripheral vision, very important for the pilot, even when he's under G and he can start to get that tunnel vision. That was a freestyle masterclass, and Gerald is my tip for the top slot. Steve Carver now in the extra 260. Well, let's see what he can do with his freestyle. There's his smoke on, 4 points, 8 points of hesitation roll into an inverted turn. There's a lot of G there. He's having to work very, very hard to keep himself up to speed with the rotation. The smoke there shows you the kind of maneuver he's making. He's pulling up to the vertical. This is a perfect roll, absolutely straight in the vertical. He's going to stop a very transitory form of levitation as he starts to tail slide and hits the down vertical. Now, here's a selection of some of those amazing freestyle displays. Here's Clive Butter and his little pit special working very hard. A lovely vertical line there coming up past Blackpool Tower. And now we're into the pits 12. Here's Alan Cassidy working really hard. Big, heavy ailerons there, rolling in the vertical. Not an easy thing to do, working ailerons and rudder together. Now he's going to balance the aircraft right at the top of the climb, and you can see he's going to start now rolling backwards. Look at this. He absolutely stops in the air. It's half a fuselage length. It's 2 fuselage lengths. All the way down, maintaining control. Absolutely on the spot. Next, we have Gary Ferriman in his extra 230 here. Low power, but what a rate of rotation, and he's putting together really a beautiful show. It's all about variety, it's all about quality. Into the vertical, let's see what he's going to do now. Okay, he's going to try and match what the others were doing there. Into the vertical, holding that line, rolling, using aileron rudder again to balance the aircraft right at the top of the climb. He's going to start sliding backwards. Watch as he drops into the smoke. He's going to hit the down line, full fuselage length. There he is, Gary Ferriman. Last man to go in the freestyle. Competition leader so far and current unlimited national aerobatic champion. Is he the man to beat? Here's Mark Jeffries. Okay, you get a good idea there of Mark in the vertical, what he's trying to do. He's balancing the aircraft there, doing the top half of a giant. Look at this knife edge spin. This really is a difficult maneuver. The aircraft uses a lot of height on the way down there. Very, very tricky maneuver. Trying to put together the difficulty, trying to keep it flowing all the time. Upside down into the vertical once again, pulling. There it is, that yaw to the left with the right-hand tractor sends him into the ruade. It's a negative spin, ending up in an aileron roll. You can see the amount of pressure he's under there, the G, as he starts to pump up his stomach muscles. You've got to relax, of course, under negative G and pump up under positive G. A sensational performance, but is it enough to win? The competition is very close indeed.
So, an incredible first freestyle sequence there. The judges gave Steve Carver and Alan Cassidy 2,800 points, putting them into joint third place. Jerry Butler's spectacular routine scored 2,950 points to put him into second place, but once again it was Mark Jeffries who took first place with a score of 3,120 points. So, going into day 2 of the competition, Mark Jeffries was leading overall, with Gary Ferriman in second and Jerry Cooper third. Away from the flying, the Aero GP team got to meet 112-year-old Royal Air Force veteran Henry Allingham, who regaled them with the tales of the early years of aviation. Henry was in Blackpool as part of the town's Veterans Day celebrations.
The first day went really well. The wind conditions were very difficult for the pilots. There was a very strong on-judge wind, a wind coming off the sea towards the judges that meant they really had to work at their positioning. They have to stay within a kilometre squared box, and they have to centre their flights based on the judge's position, which is obviously in the middle of that box. It made it very difficult for them. There was some good flying and there were some excellent results.
So on to the second run of the time sequence. Everyone was expected to do better as the weather conditions had improved. First to fly was Gary Ferriman, who flew an amazing time of 2 minutes 13 seconds, 7 seconds better than Mark's winning time from day 1.
I sat in and thought about where I could cut bits off where I flew with no lines and that's what I did, and it worked. So I enjoyed it. Yeah, I just hope that the others don't think quite as hard as I did.
But the pilots continued to improve. Clive Butler knocked an astounding 43 seconds off his first run with a time of 2 minutes 30 seconds. The fast times continued, with Jerry Cooper flying an identical time to Gary Ferryman of 2 minutes 13 seconds.
Oh. I'm surprised. There was a few times when I threw quite a lot of time away, so yeah. Good. Tied for first.
Steve Carver took 14 seconds off his daytime.
Slightly better, I think, not as much on judge wind, and there's certainly not as much wind along the main axis either, so it's easier to stay where you want to be. It's just a little bit tending to blow you in towards the seashore.
Alan Cassidy was next, and he also improved his time by 14 seconds. This left just Tom Cassells and Mark Jeffries to fly. Back to race commentator Brendan O'Brien.
Second last to fly now, Tom Cassells. Everybody's improved their time, but Tom is just going to throw caution to the wind and go for nothing else but speed. Mark Jeffries is going to fly after him. They are so close that you couldn't push a razor blade between the two of them. A little bit slow there in that stall turn. He could have got it around a lot faster. Very difficult, these competition pilots, as I say, to throw accuracy to the wall, because that's what their whole life depends on. Accuracy, not speed.
Back at base, Tom waited to hear his time. When it came through, it was an amazing 2 minutes and 8 seconds.
Get on! Hey!
That's the time to beat. Tom Cassells has said it, and Mark Jeffries has got to fly flat out to be very competitive indeed, and he is a very competitive young man. This aircraft is stressed at +10 and -10, and he's going to use every single bit of that flight envelope to fly absolutely as fast as he can. No hesitation there, none of this competition nonsense. Pull it around, tight G, high rotations, get it going as fast as possible. From the ground, that looked a stunning performance from Mark, but is it enough to win?
I win fast and furious, but I don't know if it's fast enough.
When the score came through, it was an unbelievable 2 minutes and 7 seconds.
Yes!
1 second!
All it needs.
So round 3 saw Mark Jeffries winning again, followed by Tom Cassells and Jerry Cooper. The final round was the second freestyle.
Gary Ferryman then for his second attempt at the freestyle. So let's look at some of the different things that he's got to work on. Variety, he's got to work on the difficulty factor. That's a lovely climbing knife edge. He's using all the lines, 45, not just up and down the A and the B axis. Okay, what's he going to do next? Okay, he's pulling up. It's a hard pull up into the vertical, and he's rolling. Look at that, an absolutely perfect vertical roll. I know what he's going to do next. He's aiming for a torque roll, but there he's losing it at the top. The aircraft's going to torque off, and that's going to lose him valuable points. Now, Clive Butler for his second attempt at the freestyle. Well, the monoplanes don't have it all their own way. Look at this, an absolutely perfect presentation from the little pit special designed all those years ago. The wonderful view of the biplane does give you something different, and if you have a different aircraft in freestyle, you can make it work to your advantage. Look at that, an amazing climbing rotation, and it's quick as well. The pit special is not sluggish. Joel Cooper very, very much in contention now for the win in his wonderful Cap 232. Highest rotation of any aerobatic aircraft, indeed of any aircraft in the world. There, you get a good impression, 500 degrees a second. And look what it's like, actually hanging on the propeller when he's doing these vertical maneuvers. The aircraft almost coming to a stop. That's the kind of view you get, looking out of those wingtips, those big, long ailerons, almost the full span of the wing. There it is, a perfectly balanced torque roll going backwards, no sideways slip there. Orientating himself again. That's so important. And look at those rotations. 3 turns on the way down, back in towards the beach. Remember, it's a freestyle, so he's coming in from every angle. It's not just up and down. And a cap Lomshabak rotating. That's the view you get from the cockpit. Over and over. Tumbling. Sky, ground, and back online. Steve Carver next in the extra 260. It's all to play for still. It's about painting a picture in the sky. And the judging, of course, of the freestyle is very subjective, admittedly. So what you can do with the aeroplane to impress the judges, it's all about that picture. Get in there and present it. Use all the different planforms that you have. Use the characteristics that are particularly good with your aircraft. The extras then, the rates of roll, of course, very important. Get as many rotations in as you can. Difficulty factors, yes, but it's all really about how you present that difficulty to the judges. There's a marvelous Ruard. It's a gyroscopic tumbling figure taking the aircraft end over end. Alan Cassidy in the pits 12, a big, beautiful biplane. He's going to use that to his advantage in this freestyle. Big, sweeping figures, letting the aircraft fly itself almost trajectorially. When he does these rotational maneuvers in a big airplane, they always look so much more impressive. And what fantastic smoke as well. Climbing in the vertical there. Big long lines, of course, very, very fast aeroplane, despite the fact that it's so big. Big wide figures. And there's that vertical snap roll, that rotation, taking him back onto line for his finish. Next on, our second to last pilot now, Tom Cassells. And take a look at this now. That is not a model aircraft. It may look as though it's flying over the town, but it isn't. In fact, there's a real pilot in a real aeroplane. The Cap 232 there. Everything to fight for. Gerald Cooper, Mark Jeffries, as I say, and Tom Cassells here. Look at some of the maneuvers he's going through, and what a presentation. He's using every possible control on this aircraft, mixed, matched together in the vertical. 4 points of a hesitation roll. He's going to give it absolutely everything. Incredibly slow speed. There's that tumbling maneuver from an inverted flight. Look at that yaw to the left. Takes him around once again onto the B axis, rolling down towards the beach into the vertical, pulling up once again in towards you, up on the A axis, back onto the B to finish. Absolutely sensational. So, last on stage in the second freestyle, Master of the Sky, Mark Jeffries. Has he got it in him to take the prize? Let's have a look. He's got to put everything in here. He's got to put difficulty, he's got to put innovation, he's got to put orientation, he's got to put rotation. Now, this is an absolutely perfect figure. Held in the vertical, rotated one way, reversed the other, then into a perfectly held torque roll. Very high difficulty, very beautifully presented. Got to look for lots of gyroscopic maneuvers here, particularly. Climbing in the vertical, looking over his shoulder. And there it is. That's what they want. A big gyroscopic figure, a descending Lomshabak. Was that enough to win the Aero GP?
Third place in the final freestyle went to Steve Carver. Second place was Mark Jeffries. And first went to Jerry Cooper. So the final results were: third place went to new boy Tom Cassells.
Well, it's the first time I've done Aero GP, and I think it's a fantastic.
Second place was Jerry Cooper.
It was good fun, yeah. It was a different approach to what we're used to. So normally we're trying to balance lines and work on timing, whereas we were just going for out-and-out speed to get through the sequence as quickly as we could.
And winner of the Blackpool Aero GP 2008 was Mark Jeffries.
Competition was brilliant, very good fun, really competitive, because the pilots are very competitive, and as such it produces a good camaraderie, and results are good.